Hi friends, through this video I'm going to share my journey of learning English, that where from I started my journey about 10 months back and where have I reached today and what do I do to make my communication better. Though every expert on this platform would always suggest you to go for all the 4 modules of a language, and we are familiar with the 4 modules of any language, that is reading, writing, listening and speaking. Speaking is the ultimate key. If you want to become good in any language, we have to speak, because ultimately this is the sole purpose of learning any language, that we want to become a good speaker in that language. But my dear friends, if we want to become good speaker and if we want to become good communicator, we should have enough vocabulary words with us, and we should also be familiar with the basics or the basic rules related to that language, the basics of the grammar, I can say. In my case, if I have to share my journey with you, I am frankly speaking not too much into writing, because at my office end also we frame most of our letters in the regional language only. This is a sort of mandatory kind of thing which we are to follow. At the maximum, I simply put up my signatures in English only. This is the only thing I do the whole day. If I have to talk about doing something related to writing, in my case. Now let's talk about reading. I am not at all a good reader. I can't sit in a fixed position at some place for more than 10 minutes, and that also having a book in the hand. If I have something, some book sort of thing in my hand, like my daughter tried a number of times to develop this habit in me, that mom, okay, you take this book and start reading, and I remember that I would start feeling sleepy after some time. So I'm not at all a good reader as well. But one habit which I have developed is that I listen to the English content, and that also when I'm driving, then I just open any YouTube channel and start listening any speaker, any person who speaks well, not native majority of the time, any Indian speaker, anybody who speaks well and to whom I can understand, like the language I can understand, the pronunciation, everything which I find easy for me, I listen to that person only. Another thing which I have developed, which I could develop, and I find it very interesting also, that is speaking. And I speak with myself. Most of the time I speak to myself. Whenever I am alone, I am driving or I am doing any household chores, anything I do, I speak out. I start framing different sentences. Now the thing is where from I bring the vocabulary, because when I started my journey about 10 months back, at that time I had a very little knowledge of the vocabulary, and that too also related to my subject and to my profession only, not beyond that. How could I learn the words which I have started using these days in when I communicate with anybody? That I could do after going through the newspaper, English newspaper, like in my belt of Punjab, the Tribune and the Indian Express. Otherwise, Hindustan Times is also third paper, but these former 2 newspapers, they come at my home. But out of these 2, I find the Tribune very easy for me, because I find myself in an easy kind of space, because they use very simple language which I can understand very well. And I go through just majority of the time just the magazine section of the newspaper only, or if I have to read beyond that magazine section, that the front page of the paper. So that habit I have developed. Whenever I come across some word which is very easy and fancy at the same time, I immediately pen down that word somewhere or note it down in the notebook of my smartphone. Then what do? whenever I am alone and I start framing different sentences, and it happens spontaneously. I can't give you the example, the kind of sentences I make, because it happens spontaneously. Anything I start speaking out. And even when I'm driving, I keep on talking to myself regarding some problems or some issues or something which is happening around me, or something in my imagination, my dreams, my ideas. What do I want to do? What are my plans? Anything I start talking to myself or start sharing those things with my inner self and start speaking. And wherever I find that I'm short of the vocabulary words, I start thinking about that particular word. And because I have a plethora of words in the notebook of my smartphone, a number of times I would stop my car on the way and scroll down the notebook and then find out that appropriate word I was looking for at that very moment. So this way I do my practice. This is the thing I do at the moment, and I try to incorporate that word in my lingo. I would suggest you also develop this habit of going through the English newspaper on daily basis, at least just a one page if you can do. This morning I came across one word, that is startling. Now startling, I found a word which I haven't come across earlier, but at the same time I found it very catchy and easy to use. When I scroll through the dictionary, because I have downloaded one dictionary in my phone as well, whenever I'm stuck somewhere, I immediately find the meaning of that word in the dictionary immediately, because I can't move forward without knowing or getting to know the meaning of that word. This is a kind of habit I have. So when I scroll down, the meaning of that word is shocking. So if you want to say some shocking incident, now you can say startling incident. This is very catchy, fancy word, startling. So this is the way I go these days, you may say. Actually, not exactly these days. I have been practicing it since long. So many months back I started this kind of habit, like going through the newspaper and then jotting down the words I come across, the words I find very easygoing and fancy at the same time. So I would suggest you that you also go this way, because there is no pressure of reading, sitting and writing. Simply go through one page of the newspaper and you would come across so many very easygoing and fancy words. Simply you do one thing, start incorporating these words in your day-to-day lingo, and you would find that your language has started becoming better day by day.